Welcome to our 121st podcast. Today we're continuing our prior discussion about techniques for stakeholder engagement, broadening into how to measure that engagement. What's one thing you can do to effectively measure stakeholder engagement? Keep listening to find out. Welcome to Harmonious Workplaces, a podcast about corporate culture, organizational change management, and workplace behavior. Harmonious Workplaces was started by independent consultants to explore and challenge workplace issues and to build better ways of working. It's a blend of theory and practice, grounded in real-world experience, working with organizations of all sizes across a wide range of industries. If you own a business, lead a team, want fresh ideas about the workplace, or just enjoy listening to consultants talk candidly about how to make work more effective and more enjoyable, we invite you to sit back, relax, and dive in with us to Harmonious Workplaces. Hello, Harmonious Workplaces listeners. Welcome back to our podcast. I'm Rich Cruz, an organizational development consultant. This is Ben Kleiman. Ben, you are the czar of change management today.
You've been waiting all week for that, haven't you?
I have been.
That's so great. Yes.
The resident CCMP. How are you, Ben?
Hey, Rich, hey, everyone. I'm doing well.
Right on.
I'm doing well.
Cool.
This is a
So
wrap.
last time we talked about stakeholder engagement, and we said we would pick this up at the next future episode, and here we are.
Here we are. Yes.
right on.
Last time we started on our journey of talking about stakeholder engagement techniques, and what I was thinking we might do is expand that into trying to measure engagement and see if there's ways that we can get beyond a traditional survey, pulse survey, things like that. And
Sure.
We were talking last week about your example from changing from a manual sales process to a more digitized sales process as a way to just kind of frame the conversation. So
Sure.
I think that was very helpful. So maybe we can either use that as our through line example or flip to something new. However you'd like to take it, that's fine.
Yeah. Well, so in that example, I think we were talking about taking all these. If I remember the episode correctly, so this was taking a real estate sales group, right, and taking them from all these bespoke ways of them doing their stuff, which was largely offline, and it was done with either spreadsheets or scraps of
I remember you
paper
talking
or
about a lot of stuff being written down in essentially
yeah.
black notebooks and things like that.
Oh yeah, that was way back in the day with same when I was at Sam Ash Music, the Black Notebooks. Yes,
Right.
yeah,
So I think it was
right.
about transitioning. You were a manager and transitioning your team to a newer digitized approach to sales, but also there was
Yes,
a new point of sale system involved, and it sounded
yep,
like there was a bunch of stuff going on. And since you were in the
yes, lots
manager
of different
seat, that
stuff.
might provide a little bit of a different perspective from someone who's just
Yeah,
kind
a-
of beaten through
and
the
almost
change.
yeah, exactly. And almost every time that there's been some new customer service relationship CRM system that I've been involved in putting in, you always find that there are people who have been doing, they've had their own notebooks and it's been offline, and that's how they've just done business, right?
Yeah.
So it's not just 1999 to 2001, as late as 2024. I've come into this, right? So
Yeah. Yeah. I'm sure.
but yeah, it is definitely better to be able to measure, from a management perspective, but also for the salespeople, right? It's to be able to measure how engaged they are and how much they have adopted the system, right? To go from sometimes it's 0 to whatever number they're at, with regard to how many customers they put in, how many phone calls they've logged, how many emails they've logged, those types of things. To of course, revenue numbers, right? And then doing the correlation between the two and the like.
Yeah. That's really helpful. I think it's always tricky to say that change in sales process or methodology directly corresponds to increase in revenue. Sometimes that's a little bit of a tenuous, so there's a lot of correlation going on in there. But I think in
Right.
most cases you can kind of follow the breadcrumbs close enough
That's true.
that
Yeah.
it's reasonable to make some conclusions.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
So core in stats class, what they
Oh
always say.
gosh, if you've ever taken a stats class, it is just the constant through line.
That's right. Yeah. And
Correlation
core
is not
is
causation.
not causation. That's right.
We've just
Not
saved you a whole
necessarily anyway.
statistical degree right there.
That's right. Yes. So now in your line of work, working largely with pharma and
Mhm.
the med industry, what types of engagement metrics have you been measuring?
It's interesting, and so of course it's going to depend on the client and the situation and whatnot. I find that a lot of times clients are very reliant on pulse surveys.
Yep,
They're
sure.
reliant on maybe small group engagement or one-on-one manager managee engagement and tracking true deep engagement that way.
Hmm.
They'll do periodic pulse surveys to track broader engagement within a slightly larger cohort or across an impacted group, a broader impacted group of stakeholders. I find that sometimes people will look at how many communications have been sent out, who's taken training, if there are multiple levels of training, who's progressed through the the training kind of paradigm there.
Sure.
And you also have all staff meetings, and so sometimes you can do a very crude sense check in terms of when you have an all staff, are people submitting questions ahead of time? What kinds of questions are they? Are they more technical? Are they more
Hmm.
aspirational, tied to the why, tied to motivation, those kinds of things?
Sure.
And then, whether they're submitted ahead of time or asked during, you can see some of that. What I don't see a lot of is whether or not companies are looking at the types of behaviors that are actually being meant to change and whether that's becoming more sustainable. So we've
Hmm.
asked everyone to use a new sales system. Are they actually doing that? Are they doing
Sure.
that? And is it leading to new behaviors where they're getting maybe faster at sales or they're more efficient or we can see more customer data and start figuring out cross-selling opportunities or ways to have quicker feedback with that customer if they just bought a new, in your example, if they just bought a new guitar, do they like the guitar? Are they finding it easy
Yeah,
to
sure.
use? Do they need new strings? Are they needing lessons? Are they needing a specific songbook that or music book for the style of music that they're trying to learn? All of those things, are we finding those things faster? Are the salespeople
That makes
feeling
sense.
less stressed? And
Right.
are they, are they showing up happier in the morning and going home less stressed at the end of the day? Those kinds of things. And one thing I have not at all seen people measure is, are people engaged because they're required to be engaged, or are they engaged because they truly believe that this new way is the best way or the better
Mm.
way to do something and it fulfills not just the mission of the organization but their internal mission as in this example as sales agents or as the manager of a sales team. This is the way to get them to behave and respond to their clients' needs better and help the organization be a better guitar selling organization, that kind of thing. So
Sure.
I've not seen that done other than just by like real proxy of proxy of proxies kind of stuff.
Sure.
And
Yeah, that
and
makes sense.
that to me is sort of the more interesting thing because we can kind of track behavior. We can kind of track whether sales are going up or they're staying flat. we can kind of track stuff like you've said about, are people putting in sales opportunities? Are we getting richer data about our client base? Are people using the system and are they using it effectively? Have they taken the training? But that inner belief, that to me is really interesting.
Yeah.
How can we track that commitment to the change to the organization? And I think there are some scales, survey, not scales. There are some academic measures out there that you can administer to your stakeholder population, but I have not
Hmm.
seen that done.
Got it. Got it. Yeah. Now I
That
have
was a
to
lot of
some
talking. I'm
extent.
sorry.
But no. That's great, man. There's, I mean, I have through like a CRQ, right, a change readiness questionnaire.
Right. Okay.
Yeah, where you are, I mean, and it's basically a pulse survey that says,
Hmm.
how much do you know about what this change is, and
Yeah.
how, and what's your level of comfort, and does your do you feel that your company is supporting you in this way? And now, of course, there are people who are. Go ahead.
Do you also in those readiness questionnaires, do you also ask a question about something around trust or something around safety, being able, do you trust your manager? You alluded to, do you trust the leadership and the direction of the organization, but do you have something explicit about, do you trust your manager? Do you feel safe talking to
Mm,
your manager? Do those typically include that as well?
that's a good question, Ben. And some of the like the last one that I administered had something to that effect in it.
Mhm. Yeah.
Previous ones did not.
Mm,
I mean,
okay.
talking about, do you feel supported? Do you
Yeah.
feel you have, you have sufficient knowledge to be able to do this, right? So there's some
Right.
of that, and you can measure that over time. But
Right.
actually looking at things like, trust factor with your manager,
Or your team. Yeah.
yeah, or your team,
Yeah.
yeah. No, I can't say
That you've seen that. What,
that I've
does
seen
it
that.
also ask in terms of, do you have a knowledge of the upcoming change? Does it also ask about resources? Do you feel like you have the resources to complete this
That
change?
that is one that
One
is
that's
one
asked. Okay.
aspect of that. Yeah,
So that's
yeah,
good. So
yeah.
so there's sort of stuff in there that's really healthy and really good. And I love that a lot of the stuff you've been doing administers it early as a baseline. If we were
Right.
in a room with an audience, I would do one of those sort of show of hands questions. How many people are on a change initiative where there is no baseline, or they're too late to collect a baseline, or were told not to collect a baseline, and
Oh
just sort
boy.
of see how many hands in the room go up. Because I know we've talked about this quite a bit, and how it seems like the no-braineriest no-brainer in the world to do a baseline survey, because how are you going to measure your progress if you don't? And
That's
how
right.
do you know
That's
how to
exactly right.
calibrate your change if you don't? And the number
Well,
of places that don't do that, it's just like, wow. Like,
right. There's this assumption that, well, this is all new to everybody, so it's going to be, and it goes beyond just the readiness part goes beyond just, yeah, we knowing, whatever that system is, or knowing what to expect from this company or whatever.
right. Or
There's
just
there's
even
there's
what
so
the
much
change
nuance to
is.
it. Right. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I think
And
that has a picture.
I think we could certainly do better with that. The I'm gonna just dig into something here, Ben, real quick. So the
Yeah.
CRQ, like the one that I've used lately,
Hmm.
there's the perceived need for change. So
Okay.
there's like four questions there: history and predisposition, executive support, or executive leadership support, capacity and capability to change, alignment with the organization's goals and strategies, clarity of vision and destination, attitude support, and then resistance to change. These are the different elements, and then each one of them has specific
Hmm.
questions pertaining to that. And I thought this one was very good. I've
Hmm.
used ones that were kind of off the shelf
Okay.
from Qualtrics before, right? That were more of like a an employee engagement survey that
Yeah,
wasn't really specific to change, right? So arguably not as helpful as something like this one, you know.
sure, sure.
Yeah.
That's really good. That's helpful. That's helpful.
And that we were before we go to the break. I've been reading this book that you introduced me to, rethinking change or rethinking resistance, right? And it's
Yeah,
a neuroscience
right.
perspective on
By
change.
Travis Hayner.
And yeah, yeah, and the author has been talking in the chapters that I've been reading lately. Yesterday, we're talking about using some of these survey techniques to
Oh,
bring it
good.
out. But
Okay.
yeah, and just again, so many organizations fail to baseline that. So trying to measure what we were at before to here is all based on assumption,
Hmm.
and we know what it means to assume. So yeah,
When we come back from the break, maybe we could talk a little bit about what are some of the good ways to measure engagement and see if we can start getting beyond just pulse surveys
yep,
or
perfect.
or
All
one
right,
to ones. Yeah.
sounds good. We'll be right back.
Oh, hi. I'm Hermie, the HR hermit crab. So, if you've ever sat in a meeting thinking, are we all talking about the same thing? I have a book that might feel very familiar. In my third cartoon book, Trust Fall Pratfalls, you'll find a collection of short, funny workplace moments. The kind that make you laugh and then immediately think, yeah, we do that. We cover things like unclear priorities, communication that somehow creates more confusion, leaders who mean well but miss the mark, and employees trying to make sense of it all. It's basically a highlight reel of how the heck did this happen? But each story also contains evidence based, valuable information such as simple ways to communicate better, practical ways to support your team, and small changes that make work a little more, well, workable. You can finish each story in just a couple of minutes and actually use the lessons the next day. Plus, it's a cartoon book, so you can leave it on your desk and be the envy of all your cubicle mates. Check out Herbie the HR Hermit Crab Trust Fall Pratfalls, available now on Amazon. Visit www.hermiehrhermitcrab.com or www.harmoniousworkplaces.com/Herbie. Oh, and if you see your workplace in here, maybe don't read it out loud in the next staff meeting. Make change your friend. Bye.
And we're back. So, Ben, before we went to the break, you were saying let's talk about some other ways to measure outside of these pulse surveys, right?
Right, right, right. And
Yeah.
so where I'm going with this is canonically the way to measure engagement is to just run pulse surveys and have managers ask their teams,
Sure.
either in one-on-ones or small groups and things like that. And I'm just curious I have been curious if there are ways that we can move beyond that. If there's something in this world of 2026, mid 2026, where we can be a little bit more proactive and precise and a little bit more sort of broader and not just rely on these same tools. And was doing a little bit of research online, and it seems like not. It seems like no, we cannot get a true sense of whether a person has really internalized the change and whether there's trust or whether they feel like they are in a good place with change if we don't ask. And so, whether we do that in a conversation or whether we do that in some kind of a survey with a consistent set of questions that gets to that,
Sure.
there's no proxy for am I enjoying this or have I bought into the change? That said, there are some things that we can measure. I think there are some things that we can measure that are beyond just the pulse survey tools or the one-on-one
Sure.
tools that will look at how behavior is changing and whether that behavior is changing in a direction we want it to change. And so I go there because I think that the ultimate goal of most of our change initiatives is to change behavior and have that be sustainable and lead into something that is one of our organizational goals. Like we're changing something for a reason.
Hmm.
Usually, and we've said this many, many times, usually that's either to do something that increases our revenue or our profit, or decreases our costs, or boosts efficiency or effectiveness. Sometimes it has to do with making happier customers. Tangentially, people will often say it has something to do with making happier employees, but usually that boils down to making money or saving money.
That's true.
So
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
yeah. And so I think some of the things that I saw doing some just looking around online and stuff is that you can do these pulse surveys and whatnot, but you can also look at ways of tracking how much influence stakeholders had in a decision that gets made, how much influence they had in the outcome of that decision. You can also look at how involved they are. Are they doing the minimum, like they've taken the training, they're using a new system or they're following a new process because it's required because of compliance in that industry,
Sure.
or because they'll get fired if they don't, whatever that might be. But are they doing just that, or are they going beyond, and are they volunteering to train new staff and show them not just the basics of that new system, but like the ins and outs that we've talked about sometimes on a machine. You kind of have to bang it just so to get it to work, like a pinball machine, or
Yeah,
you have
yeah,
to
right.
do a little bit of subtle negotiation as you're moving stuff around, product around on a factory floor to get it to fit just right through your maze of storage units or whatever. Those
Sure.
kinds of things. Are they volunteering to train new staff or bring them on board in that way? Not just to the organization in general, but to this specific change. Are they doing that? Are
Yeah.
they actively championing the change? And so when you see them saying, "Hey, this is really good. I think our organization did us a good thing by moving into this new way of working, new way of being." Are you seeing that in the chatter? Are you hearing that in the chatter? Those are good proxies for, is this person really bought in and committed to the change? And then just looking at sort of an audit of work product. Are they making widgets in a way that is not just compliant with the new process, but is, let's say, more defect free or happening faster or resulting in happier clients? Are they running the service as lean and as efficient as it can be that leads to happier clients or what have you? And so it's sort of looking at the work product as well, using that again as a proxy for, if someone is bought in more than just the minimum, the outcomes should show that
Sure.
the service is delivered better, service with a smile, that kind of stuff. Is that leading to better sustained outcomes? And the key part there is it sustainable over time? Is it not
Right.
just that bump when something is released and training is done and everyone's in rah-rah mode, but longer term as you start to realize, maybe there's things that need to be continuously improved, those kinds of things.
Yeah.
Again, I'm talking a lot. I'm sorry, but did
No,
that,
no, no. That's
did that
great
kind of
because
resonate?
yeah, it does. It makes me think about, especially from a quality standpoint, right? Like Ford Motor Company in the very recent news, because they had been automating, so they had massive layoffs. Then
Yeah,
they
they
were
dropped a lot of
automating,
people for AI.
dropped a lot of people.
Yeah.
Yes, right. But they end up hiring a bunch of people back because they discovered that their quality dropped, right?
Hmm.
So trying to get they needed more humans in the loop to discover the defects and actually have the discernment to be able to decide, hey, do we, you know this is this up to muster or is it not, right? So
Hmm.
I've seen this in manufacturing processes where they've, there's some new way of, we got a new saw, and like I'm literally thinking about this engagement that I had where they got a new saw and they needed to train people on this versus how they were working with the old one, right? And where did the defects drop? Did the quality
Mm-hmm.
improve? Right,
Mm-hmm.
those types of things. Did they revert to go back to the old saw and or the old way of doing
Right.
this? Sometimes like literally it was like manual ways of doing things
Right.
because that's what they were they grew up that way in the industry, right? So there's some of that, and it's not just anecdotal, right? I mean, some of it does
Yeah.
come from feedback from a manager or a supervisor or whatever, right? But it's helpful to first of all have some of those. You were saying like there's surveys, but there's also kind of structured interviews. This was another thing I think that
You mentioned last time, yeah, and in the
rethinking, yeah,
past,
yeah,
you've mentioned a lot about conducting
yeah.
structured interviews.
Yes, yeah, and the book actually rethinking resistance,
Resistance, yeah.
I believe brought that into it too, right? Where it's not it's you have to have it's not just structured interviews because structured interviews feel well too structured, right? Like people it's almost too formulaic and they may resist answering things in a truthful way or may change the way that
Hmm.
they answer some questions, right? But if you take some of that structure but also so you're making it formal and informal kind of together, right, where you're giving them that input. We've talked about agency before, right? Letting
Yeah.
people
Oh, super important.
super important, right?
Right. Right.
That's a and we're going to have our next guest, the belonging lady, Cam Dunson, will be coming up. Is that next week? I think
Dr.
that's the
Dunson,
next
yeah,
episode.
next week.
Dr. Dunson, yes, TEDx speaker and
Cool.
personal friend of mine, and she talks about belonging. Well, in this book too, it talks about how when people when people feel that they belong and they have had some input, right, they tend to be not just more engaged, but
Hmm.
their resistance to the change lowers. When people feel like they are left out of the loop, or when their decisions or their input is devalued, it literally hits a pain center, the same pain center that if we stub our toe that says
Yeah, physical
ow,
pain.
this hurts, right?
Yeah.
Physical pain. It still registers in the same area. And if you keep getting that pain of, I'm not, I don't have that value. I'm not,
Yeah, my voice counts for nothing. I'm not valued. Nobody wants to hear
right.
my suggestions.
Yeah, yeah. We'll see withdrawal. We'll see people, and that can be measured as well.
Oh,
Particularly
cool.
if you're doing
Yeah.
some of these structured interviews and you're being mindful about who's on your list of stakeholders
Hmm.
and what are the behaviors that they're doing. So you have to do some categorization, right?
Sure. Sure.
But yeah, that's certainly something that I think we have much more, particularly with AI, right? When we have transcripts now, you're in a meeting and you have transcripts and you can see who's talking, who's not, who's engaged in the chat, right?
Hmm. What are
Because some
people
people,
saying? Yeah.
right, right.
Do you feel like with the transcripts, you're able to get a sense of tone? Because you could read something in a transcript, and sometimes someone could say something, and if you know them, you know that they're saying something sarcastically. But if you don't know them or you weren't in the meeting, you might just read it and read it as something that is critical. Does that make sense?
It does, and I'm not sure how sophisticated it is, Ben. I mean, it seems like it can pull in patterns, and I've seen this like when debates get hot,
Yeah.
and you have somebody negating somebody, and the conflict resolution is
Uh huh.
less than ideal. that it can point that out. But at the same time,
So
sometimes,
there's a conflictometer in the chat, or maybe even live as you're on the Zoom, and it's like doot doot doot.
well, I don't know about that, but that would
That would
be
be so
that'd be
cool.
super helpful, wouldn't
Okay,
it?
all of you software developers, engineers out there, build us a conflictometer that we can
Oh, I
bake
love it.
into our Zoom calls. That would be awesome.
Like a thermometer, or yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
or one of those speedometer type of things.
Sure, sure. When it gets to a certain point, it's like, whoa, hold on,
The
let's
big
reset
klaxon goes
this.
off in the background. Everybody, cool down, and it just injects, visually injects all this coolant onto the screen. That would be
Oh,
fun.
there you go. Right on. Yeah,
Wow.
yeah.
Okay, so I am jumping
But
the shark a little bit here, but I really like the idea of trying to, whether you're using your favorite AI tool or not, to measure psychological safety, to measure trust, to measure belonging, and see how people are showing up in meetings and showing up in chat rooms and the proverbial water cooler talk, and
mhm,
getting a sense of that. And if there's a way to measure that, that's even better, so that
sure.
that can really go a long way to showing how healthy is this group. And then that will help us understand, are they buying it? That paired with some of the other things we've been talking about will help us understand, not just are they doing the change, the minimum of what is being asked them to do, to be done just because they have to,
Right,
but are they buying into it? Are they doing it more willingly? Are they internalizing it in a way that we want them to internalize it? And are they even finding joy in the way that it's being done?
right, for sure. Well, Ben, let's go to a break. When we come
Yeah.
back, there's one other thing I think that you have in the show notes here that I'd love to be able to
Ooh.
talk about, which is some of the metrics we can get from the communications that we use, particularly in the digital
Mm.
communications,
I mean,
right?
like beyond just are people opening emails?
Right, right.
Yeah.
Because
Okay.
this is stuff that I think we can learn some things from a marketing, from the realm of Marcom, right? Marketing communications in this as well, which
Okay.
is again supported by. I'm loving this book because
Well,
it's bringing some of
it's
that up.
I mean, we've talked about it recently as well with all of this sort of series we've been doing on stakeholder engagement. It's just that it's very similar to marketing, where you have to drive awareness and then you
Right,
drive desire
desire.
in
Yep,
people to do the change. And so
that's exactly right.
there's, and we talked about it in the same way that you have to drive desire for people who you might want to join your company. You have
Mm,
to make your company stand out,
sure,
because despite whatever's going on in the economy, people do have, most in aggregate, people have choices about where to work.
absolutely. Yeah.
Whole different
Yep. And
conversation, but
and
I
and
know
there's
you're
a whole
trying.
yeah, and there's a whole lot of I can't say it's happening right now, right? Like we've seen in the past where there's been attrition because
Mhm.
people have left a company. Well, I think we
Mhm.
see less of that. However, from a hiring perspective, the preferred methods of hiring still remain to be poaching off of existing talent, right? And basically finding out directly or indirectly, are people satisfied in the work that they're in their workplace, right? So if they're not, oh, we may have this for you over here, right? So there are
Interesting.
signals. There are signals
So
out there that
it makes me wonder if there's a proxy for how is your change going if you track inflow and outflow of your staff.
mm,
Like if
hmm
a lot of staff are leaving and it's not a project or a change initiative that has to do with de-scoping the amount of people that you have, like it's not a
it's
reorg,
not
or
part of that,
it's
right?
not, you're not letting a lot of people go. But if you find that you're doing a change and lots of people seem to be leaving for one
Yep.
reason or another, especially key people that you would prefer to keep
Right.
around, that's probably not a good sign.
Probably not a good sign. That's for sure. All right,
Right,
boy,
but you went to break.
you just nailed another metric that is very important for all you HR people to look at.
Number of flies on the floor.
That's right. Cool. All right, Ben. We'll be right back. At Harmonious Workplaces, we believe work should provide purpose, satisfaction, and growth. We empower people to thrive by fostering environments where individuals can find meaning in their work and organizations can succeed through thoughtful, well-executed strategies. We're committed to making work better for the people who do it and the leaders who guide them. To discover how Harmonious Workplaces can impact your organization, visit www.harmoniousworkplaces.com and book a free 30-minute information session with one of our consultants today. Again, that's www.harmoniousworkplaces.com. And we're back. So, Ben, we've been talking about stakeholder engagement for like a while now. But
For several episodes, we've got a nice series built up now of stakeholder engagement and ways that you can engage stakeholders. We've been talking today specifically about measuring stakeholder engagement.
Yep.
And you had a question before we went to break about some of the work related to communications and marketing.
Right. Yes. So one of the things that was mentioned in this, again, this book that have you read it? Have you read the whole thing yet?
In process.
In process. Me too. Yeah. So rethinking resistance, right? And it's thinking about neuroscience, but and change.
Right.
One of the things that was mentioned here is that people, when you are communicating the change and you're communicating the vision and you're training and all that stuff, right, is that you and we've talked about this. You need to be intentional. You need to hit multiple different channels. People consume content in different ways. I mean, we know this from a marketing perspective, right? So that could be internal websites such as SharePoint, or pages on your corporate website, or your ERP system. Sometimes like Workday and stuff have abilities to put change specific things in there.
Enterprise resource planning system.
Oh, enterprise resource planning system.
So that's interesting.
Right, yeah.
I didn't know that. So within a enterprise resource planning system, you can have alerts or notices, but you can also have informational stuff about doing something differently. Or
I mean, it depends on what level subscription you have, right? Even like the CRM, like Salesforce, right? You can actually have a homepage of your Salesforce instance where you'll have information, and it could have links to various places, within your organization, right? So it could act as a proxy to like a SharePoint or something like that.
Right. Okay. Interesting.
Yeah.
Sort of merging worlds there between
Yeah.
a given tool and a different tool, turning a enterprise resource planning system or a customer relationship management system into not just a tool to do things or track tasks, but also like a website or a SharePoint where you can find information.
It's another communication channel,
Cool.
right?
Yeah.
And then of course we have things like people, Slack, Teams,
Chat
if you're in a
messaging.
Microsoft,
Yeah.
chat messaging,
Right.
If you're in a Google workspace, there's huddles and stuff like, or not huddles, meets, right, and stuff like that, where you can, these are all different channels that we can use, right? Sometimes there are social groups. I've seen some organizations use internal like one of the organizations I volunteer for, right? They use a private LinkedIn group to push information out, right?
Hmm, okay.
Um, Again, there's Slack, there's Asana, there's Trello, there's Atlassian has
Project management
Jira,
tools.
right? Project
Yeah,
management tools, right? So
right.
all of these are different communication tools, right? And from those, we can actually get metrics of engagement, right? How many people have landed on your SharePoint site? How many people have clicked on certain links, right? What how engaged have people been on your Slack channels, right? Are they contributing to the conversations? Have they read the messages from DMs or direct messages or those types of things? And
Hmm.
then, like you had in here, right? So we have emails and we have email open rates. But if you can track, not all systems have this, but if you can track clicks, that's a strong engagement scenario, right? So if you have an email that goes out and a you have a call to action like a button or a link, how many times was that clicked? Not all email systems have that ability, but some of them do, right? But you should be able to measure the how many people have
Specifically,
landed on certain types of pages. Yep. Yep.
Mike, go ahead.
I was going to say one other thing that comes to mind when you were talking about that is so sometimes if you're using a learning management system, an LMS of
Hmm.
some type, you can measure how many times people have logged into there, how many have created an account in that,
Right.
who hasn't, for really probably more importantly, how far they've gone into their training towards a certification or something to that effect, right? So all of that is something that's very trackable. And then there's for like meetings when you're having either like town hall meetings or webinars, things like that. That those you can track how many people you invited in versus how many people actually showed up, how many people reviewed the replay if that's a thing. Um, Videos are great too. Like if you're using like a Microsoft, what they've got Clip Champ or can't remember the stream, right? You can actually get the how many views you had and who viewed. Sometimes it's as granular as who
That's
viewed it.
reviewed it. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, and I have actually requested when I've done work with sales teams, especially you know comment on on this, right? So I know that there's
Oh,
some,
you can
at
see who's
least there's not
commenting.
only, yeah, not only engagement, but that you had a question or you had some comment about a specific part of the topic there, right? Those have been helpful to be able to measure as well.
Yeah, those are good. Those are good to me. They're starting points, if you will. They're kind of a good place to start to see is are
Right,
they finding
right, sure,
other things we've been talking about? That'll get you a much richer sense of are people
absolutely,
engaging with this beyond just superficial stuff? Are they really engaging? Are they buying into this? Do they find that this change is helping them become better employees, serve their clients better? Is it sustainable? That kind of stuff. So I think
sure,
it's all this very large and rich soup of metrics that when you
Oh, we don't want. Well, I guess the best noodles are the wet noodles, Ben. But you made that sound really gross.
well,
Oh yeah,
thanks.
but no, you're right. I mean, bringing all of that together paints I'll put it in your culinary terms, right? It does create a very tasty meal when you can see, how all of this has come together to add,
Flavor.
these pops of flavor. That's right, right, and then it allows us to figure out how do we adjust the recipe so that it's actually, palatable for everybody.
Right, right.
Yeah.
So I think for me, the one thing that I would love people to take away is that it's more than
Mm-hmm. Right. Right.
variety of components consistently
Yeah.
to track that. And essentially, if you want to find whether or not people are really internalizing it, that is really more of a conversation. I don't think we have
Yeah.
tools. We have tools that will get it. Are people behaving differently? But whether they've actually internalized it and believe in it, has it changed their perception of who the organization is and who they are in their role?
Yeah, that makes sense. And we have to use human judgment, right? One of those project management tools and techniques of expert judgment has to come into play there, and not just leave it up to what the data, not just what the hard data says, but how do we you have to have somebody or a group of people even looking at this information to make the decisions about how is this change been adopted, how well has this happened, right, and then make decisions about how are we going to improve this, or are we on the right track, all of that, right? Because as we saw, if you just leave it up to the machines, you may find yourself having to rehire your staff back. That's right. And that's right. Absolutely. So you would think. Yes. Yeah. Cool. Well, that's about what we got for today, folks. Yeah. So can't wait for to talk to Cam in our next episode. That'll be cool. And if you have any kinds of questions about change, we'd love to hear them. You can go to our website. Absolutely. We want to know. We want to know. You can go to harmoniousworkplaces.com, where you'll find all the rest of our podcasts and Hermie the HR Hermit Crab and all kinds of blogs. And we also have some of our own tools. So Ben has a simple 4-part change process that you can download for free. We have a culture survey, or actually a culture scorecard, and then some information also on psychological safety from Cheryl, and all kinds of good stuff that you'll find at harmoniousworkplaces.com. All free, ready for you, just served up to you on a nice platter. So, all right. Well, thanks everybody for joining us on this 121st episode of our podcast. Until we meet again, make change your friend. Thanks for listening to Harmonious Workplaces. You can find all episodes, resources, and ways to connect with us at www.harmoniousworkplaces.com. If you enjoyed the show, we'd love your feedback. Please rate, review, share, and subscribe on whatever platform you're listening on. And don't forget to add Harmonious Workplaces to your favorites so you're notified when new episodes are released. Again, visit us at www.harmoniousworkplaces.com.